well, good old Kansas Kathleen isn't going to go down in the annals of history as one of the most charismatic bad girls of genre TV, is she now? Bonjour. So, episode, what are we on? 5? Perhaps I should have researched that before I switched the camera on. Is definitely the episode that I was hoping for last week. In my review last week, I said this had to, and you know, if you haven't seen it, what I said was, this is the episode before the episode where something happens. And I've got to say, this is an episode where something happens. And when you put all these episodes together now, for me, it is very, very satisfying. Very, very satisfying indeed. The opening to this story, we didn't get another epilogue in this episode, so they're obviously done with that now, so I won't go on about that. But it was titles straight into the action, and it was the Kansas City that Joel and Ellie find themselves in, and the uprising against the federal forces, like the very, very fascistic forces that are, you know, maintaining order. And it was so well, it was brutal, it was feral, it was a properly nice R-rated scene of murder and mayhem that sets up tension in a way. You know, when there's violence on that scale, I don't want to see it all the time, but just that hit right at the beginning of the episode of violence, you know, and again, human on human. And I know Walking Dead went that way, and that's what a lot of this, you know, genre fiction is about. And the guy, and obviously what they did is they went a little bit backwards in time, not to the cause of the pandemic or whatever you want to call it, but they went back in time to just before the end of last episode, where obviously one of them wakes up and they see the kid there with a face paint and all that, and they explain all that, and that was really nicely done. And the fact that the guy Henry, who Joel and Ellie team up with, Henry and his kid brother, is really nice done, because he's a collaborator and a traitor, this Henry, but they both need each other. Joel and old Pedro Pascal plays it again so nice and prickly, and how you would be. One, how you would be at his age. Don't go there. And also how you would be in that environment, which is on your guard 24/7 to survive. You know, this is one of his best performances. I know some people are coming at him by saying, "Oh, his face never changes" and all the rest of it. But do you know what? For me, he's spot on. He's so prickly. But and when he does, every now and again, when he does melt or does realise something, so like there's a moment which I'll get to with the entire scene, but there's a moment where he understands what Ellie is doing, and and she sees the window in the car, and that's her salvation, and he sees what she sees, but they've built that kind of connection up. But at that moment, he's not the prickly, miserable guy. He's the guy with the gun, making sure that Ellie's going to make it to that window. Spot on. This is really good stuff. You know, it just makes sense in and of the moment. Facial expression. He doesn't shout out, "Run for the car, Ellie, and I will shoot all of the zombies around." You know, there's none of that. It's just the expression. She knows, you know, one of them gets killed around her and she's looking at the window, and one of them done. I just loved it. The tunnel scene, so they have to get out of Kansas, so obviously Henry the traitor is helping, and his little brother is helping Joel and Ellie get out. But the build up of tension, but it's a quick scene. So they go into the tunnels, but it isn't what you expect. It is just a relaxing moment where Ellie bonds with the kid, and again nicely done. And the sound design when they enter those tunnels, and the sound and production design. Some people would say this is a simple setup, which is go down and find some industrialised tunnels and have no lights on and just light it up with but the added to the sound design of it all, the whole, and it's only a minute or two, just keeps you awake and ready. And I like that. The cliche is on the edge of your seat, because he says, you know, Henry goes to old Joel, yeah, see, I told you there'd be nothing down here. And he said, we've only been down here 2 seconds. Like, and literally, even when he says that, I'm thinking, oh, you know, it's all going to kick off. But it doesn't. It doesn't kick off then. But when they're out of the tunnel and back onto the street, oh yes, that's when it does kick off. And that was nicely held back. That was so nicely held back. There was even a part of me that when they got out of the tunnel, and they was coming out of looked like a car park, wherever it was. They was coming out, and they're on a, you know, typical kind of almost like a suburban street. But I was thinking, oh, there ain't going to be a lot of, you know, I was kind of thinking what's going to happen now in a way. Don't know why, perhaps I'm getting too cynical in my old age. But when it kicks off, the old boy up in the house with the rifle, and our Joel has to sort him out, and then from there, from the moment, and in a way, you kind of, as they turn the corner and he says, yeah, just up there past the car, this is Henry describing to the others when they're going to be, you know it, but they have built it up so beautifully up to that point. Literally, so I knew as the audience member, they turn a corner and he says, yep, it's just up there, the last house, there's a car, whatever it is he says, the fence, whatever. You're thinking, are they? The kid is saying, why can't we have our torches, you know, and his sign language and all that. And you know, but how it kicked off and how it escalated was sensational. I thought was absolutely sensational how it escalated from I don't know if they're called, are they the Raiders? I don't know if they should be called the Raiders or not. But anyway, Kathleen and her gang, bless her, turning up. The radio, Joel goes up there and you hear the radio. This is so nicely done, hearing on the radio, and he's shouting, but they can just about hear him shouting, run. He's just enough distance away for them to be going, hey? Oh, I thought that was really, really nice. So they're right in the thick of it. And the big truck, so he's there with a rifle, bang, bang, bang. No, now we've got a chase scene, the 3 of them running down the street as the trucks pushing, the bulldozer trucks kind of pushing all of the cars out of the way. Very, very nicely done. Oh, Ellie, you know, just using all her bullets in a panic. God, just great. And when that last click is over, you're thinking, you're with her. Well, I was. I think, oh no, you used all your bullets just doing that, but that's what you would do. This is what's happening. Then they've all turned up, and then there's the moment, and again, I am on the edge of my seat now, thinking, right, I know what's happening now. Henry, and this is the bit I like as an audience member, and I'm not one of those to try and predict and keep second guessing what's going to happen, but it's just instinctual. You think, oh my God, Henry, to atone for his sins, is going to sacrifice himself to save the 2 kids, because the 3 of them are separated from Joel now. He's up there, they're down here, and I think, oh, this is the way it's going to go. Oh no. And they'd already set up in a previous episode, I don't know if it was last week, where the floor was giving it like that. Now the truck that's crashed after Joel has hit the driver, finally, after that tense chase scene, now the ground's giving way. Now it's giving way, and the truck is going into the hole. again, that was beautifully done. Just enough time, because when the truck first kind of goes, I thought, oh well, that's just the fire. And I think obviously the intention is that, yeah, when it first goes, grrr, and it's all burning, the house that it's crashed into is burning, and when it just tilts, you think, oh well, it's just collapsing into the basement. But then it goes on, and then you see more reaction shots. Then it goes on, then the truck is right up in the air. And that's the point, and it's going down like that, and then that's the point where you're thinking, oh wow, yeah, right, now something special is going to happen. And it did. And it did, and it kicked off spectacularly. A nice mix of CGI and practical runners, whatever we're calling them, runners, zombies, infected, whatever we call them. A nice mix. The bloated one, you know, there was a couple of little bits of dodgy CGI in there, which I don't know how they could have avoided that. I'm not sure, but that's a tiny commentary on a little couple of bits of CGI in it. But overall, that scene, wow, that scene, spectacular. I really did enjoy that, from the build up of the old boy shooting at him, and again, sound department with there's something really heavy about it. You really do feel like there's a bullet that's come out of a gun somewhere that could do you harm. It's not just like a ping, it's a proper bullet on metal sound that they've got in this series. Oh yes, that you really know that I really do want to run away from them. Like if I got one of them in my arm, it won't be ouch, it's just a flesh wound kind of feel. And I love that from the sound department, and I will keep banging on about them, because sound is, I think, is a very important factor of any film or TV series. And the resolution of that battle, poor old Kathleen. Poor old Kathleen gets it, but right up until the end, I've got to say, and let's pause for a moment. I've just gushed, I've given you all the gush, and this is a great show. This is a great show. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause that and just leap forward, because I've only got one kind of negative comment on this series as a whole. No, not the series as a whole. Past 2 episodes, it is Kathleen. So anyway, let's just park that up a minute. Leading on after that battle, and the 2 new guys are underneath the what's it, and again, almost like sign language. Ellie, what a nice scene where Ellie knows that Joel is in no way on this God's given earth is he going to use up any bullets protecting them 2. But Ellie knows if she runs over there to him, he's got to. If she helps them, that was so nicely done. And again, and she's a really great actress. I think I really do rate her as an actress now, because these were literally facial expressions. Obviously, the director knows the whole thing, and they're being pushed in a certain way. Nevertheless, these 2 actors, top of their game. She knows. She goes over there, and then I didn't see it coming. The amount of zombie films, and of having watched Walking Dead all from the beginning, and being a fan of all this stuff, I should have known. But I'm glad I didn't. And I don't know whether they diverted my attention enough. So I wasn't ever thinking, perhaps the gamers knew that these 2 new guys weren't ever going to Wyoming with them. Thinking about it, because I've only ever seen Joel and Ellie when they're ever talking about the game. You know, you see some thumbnails and pictures online and a bit of news and all the rest of it, and it's always talking about Joel and Ellie. A bit like at the beginning with Tess. You kind of know, is she gonna? So I don't know, you know, because I'm not a gamer, like I've said before. So I don't know how they've messed all this around, like Walking Dead may have done, from the comics to the TV show. I know that they messed around with different characters and kept some of them alive that died in the comic and vice versa. So in the game, I know that this Kansas City thing and Kathleen is new and all the rest of it. But anyway, when the boy turns round with his pad, oh guys, come on, wow. And so I did not expect that. I did not expect it. But now I'm saying it, now I'm doing this review, I'm thinking, should I have seen it? But I didn't. And by the time, and bursting out of the door when he's attacking, so he's infected, the kid's infected, and he's attacking Ellie, and Henry gets the gun before Joel, and again, the tension. I mean, I've got to admit, I was like, oh come on, no, you've got the gun, you do the. I didn't know what he was gonna do. Shoots his kid brother, and when he did that, and that afterwards, where it's everyone's looking at him and Joel's going, because Henry's got the gun, like, come on mate, calm down. And I thought, oh, there's only one way this can go. And I know it sounds weirdly horrible, but it was, I don't know how else to explain it apart from satisfying when you just see the gun go to his head and you hear it. And they're good at doing that, by the way. They have shown some graphic violence in this, like the bloater when he gets hold of that guy, Kathleen's mate, like second in command, and just like, yeah. And at the beginning of this show. So they kind of are doing it. They are giving you some gore. You know, that entire kind of infected invasion scene is quite, there's some gory bits in there. And when you see, you know, Joel shooting him and you see the blood splatters on the car and all the rest of it, and Ellie with the knife saving the two guys, you know, and Joel finishing off the last one. But they're intelligent enough to know when to turn away from it. Do we need to see Henry committing suicide with a gun? No, we don't. We don't need to see a special effect coming out the other side of his head, because we know it's going to be leaving it to your imagination sometimes is worse. That was so. Overall, this episode by far has been nicely pitched. I'm so happy that last week's episode was the build-up for this. I'm so happy that it paid off, and I suppose anyone that follows my videos can tell. So, all I will say is, amongst all of this, and it hasn't really spoilt my enjoyment of it, but the whole character of Kathleen and the actress who's, I don't know if it's the actress who's portraying her or whether it was the script or what it was, but I don't know what, just fell flat. She just fell flat for me. She just didn't, there was no way, and I know like in this episode they said, yeah, it was her brother that started the uprising and all that, so everyone else is staying loyal to her. None of it gelled for me, but perhaps I just, from the beginning where I didn't warm to the character and that was it, perhaps someone else can sway me to say no, you're being a bit harsh here, because she was no Alpha from The Walking Dead, where it's not all about physical, being muscular and all the rest of it. And they kind of alluded to it where she gives the orders to kill people in this episode, the collaborators in this episode, and where she shoots the doctor in the last episode. They kind of, the way they're going, but none of it for me landed with this character in the way that they fleshed out a character like Alpha in The Walking Dead. And if you've seen that, you'll know what I mean. Where you know she's this charismatic, mental person, and that could have been a man or a woman, but it makes you stronger when it's a woman. There's something about that. But they're mental, and that's why they've risen to the top. But anyway, I haven't let that detract from my enjoyment of the show, like I say. And all I can do is thoroughly recommend this show to anyone who hasn't watched it so far. And anyway, I've given away a million trillion spoilers, but I do put it on my thumbnail, spoiler alert. So on that note, I'm going to bid everyone adios.